Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. Dan Lanning inherits a great situation at Oregon. The Ducks are loaded with talent on both sides of the ball from a team that went 10-4 in 2021. Bo Nix steps in at quarterback, transferring in from Auburn alongside new offensive coordinator Kenny Dillingham, who led Bo Nix to the best season of his career back in 2019 when Dillingham was the offensive coordinator for the Tigers. The offensive line once again is loaded for the Ducks, and the offense should see a major step forward after seeing only just 10 plays go for 40 yards or more in 2021, a decade low for the Ducks. Defensively, they're loaded. Noah Sewell returns at linebacker, the leading tackler for the Ducks with 114 last year. Justin Flo should be alongside him if he can stay healthy. The linebacking core, the front seven, all of that is so strong for Oregon in 2022. The secondary, really the only area of concern heading into this upcoming season. You take a look at their numbers from College Football Encyclopedia. Take a look at his page down in the description below. Oregon is 72nd in the country when it comes to returning production. They were 50th in the country in offense last year and 72nd in defense last year. All of those numbers, not the production part obviously, but the offense and the defense part should increase drastically in 2022 under Dan Lanning. A year, guys, where yes, it is a brand new head coach. Yes, it's a brand new system. But for Oregon, anything less than a Pac-12 title appearance would be viewed as a disappointment. So we take a look at their schedule, guys. Can Oregon get to the Pac-12 Championship game? They opened the season up against the reigning national champions, the Georgia Bulldogs. That's a big enough storyline in and of itself. The better storyline is the fact that Dan Lanning will be facing his former team. Dan Lanning was the defensive coordinator for Georgia's historic defense last year. Defensive coordinator for them, now the head coach of the Ducks. First ever game as a head coach, first ever game with Oregon comes against his former team. This should be a top 15 showdown in Atlanta. And really, guys, this is going to be a lot of fun for, I think, about a half. I think Oregon's going to make things interesting. And I think Georgia ultimately pulls away. I don't think Oregon has enough to beat the reigning national champions. Georgia's defense will still be one of the best in the entire country. Stetson Bennett returns at quarterback for the Bulldogs. Again, had a little bit of consistency there as compared to Bo Nix with the Ducks. While this game, again, I think will be close for a little bit, and maybe could be close entering the fourth quarter for some, Georgia ultimately will pull away in the second half, and the Bulldogs will start 1-0. Oregon drops to 0-1. Again, a game that should be fun to watch, but a game where not many people are giving the Ducks a fighting chance. We believe they take down Eastern Washington, and then they take on BYU. You know, Oregon's going to be battle-tested, guys. The schedule's pretty difficult for the Ducks this year. BYU, no slouch. They've got to win this game against the Cougars to avoid a 1-2 start, and really to try to keep their playoff hopes intact. Because Oregon is a team that can make the college football playoff. Even if they drop the game to Georgia, if they run the table the rest of the way, they're in. So this BYU game is tough, it's at home, and it's a must-win. And I think the Ducks get it. I think they take down the Cougars. BYU, guys, was only 74th in the country last year when it came to defense. Yes, we know Oregon was 72nd, so both teams not fantastic defensively last year. But if I'm going to give an edge to a team, it's going to be Oregon. I'm giving them the edge on defense with a better defensive mind in Dan Lanning, and I'm giving the edge because of home field advantage. This is a top 25 showdown, week 3. Oregon's going to be rocking here, and I fully believe that Oregon does enough to get the win over the Cougars, even if it will be close. They then travel to Washington State, guys. That rounds out the month of September, their first Pac-12 game of the year. This, to me, is a major trap game because in the 3 games that Oregon has played, 2 of them will have come against top 10 or top 25, top 15 opponents. Very tough, could be beaten down. They're going to be very physical, and now they play a Washington State team that's no slouch at all. It's a trap game. In Pullman, they're going to be rocking to get to host a top 15 team. They have gone through a lot of new changes. New head coach in Jake Dicker, removing the interim tag, and they made a major offseason move that no one's talking about, adding Incarnate Word quarterback Cameron Ward and his former head coach Eric Morris as offensive coordinator. Washington State has the offense and the defense. They have the team to spring a couple upsets this year, and one of them is going to come against Oregon. One of them will come against Oregon. I believe Washington State and this passing attack that's going to take the nation by storm, the air raid returning to Pullman, will exploit some weaknesses in the Oregon secondary. Again, a secondary that would be said would be the weakness of the defense and maybe the weakness of the team. Washington State at home behind the aerial attack will pull off an upset against Oregon, who I think after those 3 physical games are going to be pretty worn down. Washington State pulls off an upset here. Oregon is 2-2. Not the most ideal start, but things kind of start to lighten up a little bit after that Washington State game. They take on Stanford at home. Last year, Stanford gave Oregon their first loss of the year, 31-24 in overtime. Oregon will beat Stanford now. It's in Eugene. Oregon's out for revenge. That game had a major role in ruining Oregon's playoff hopes because, again, they only had 2 regular season losses last year. They lost to Utah towards the end of the year. Lost to Stanford earlier. They don't lose to Stanford. Maybe they're still in the hunt for the playoff after that Utah loss. They will, I believe, annihilate a Stanford team that has one of the worst defenses in the conference. They then go on the road to take on Arizona. They beat the Wildcats 41-19 last year. I think it's going to be about the same this year. Yes, the desert's a difficult place to play, but Arizona still has a ways to go under Jedd Fisch, despite all the pieces they've been adding. So Oregon on the road takes down Arizona. Back-to-back wins, 2-2 to 4-2. Excuse me. They get a bye week. Then they go back home to take on UCLA. The last 6 games for Oregon, there's only about 1 or 2 games that could be viewed as a threat here. UCLA is one of them. UCLA is one of them. And getting the bye week before they take on the Bruins is huge. Last year, the Ducks beat the Bruins 34-31. But to me, Oregon has 2 key advantages here. Bo Nix, first off. Bo Nix is a pocket passer. I think he's going to do extremely well against a UCLA defense that was the worst against the pass in the Pac-12 just last year. Oregon also has home field advantage. That is going to be key here. If they can win in the Rose Bowl last year, they can win at home this year, especially off a week of rest. Home field advantage and Bo Nix will play the 2 biggest roles in this game. Oregon takes down a good, sneaky good UCLA team. They then go on the road to California. California has been tricky in years past for Oregon. They've seen them close matches in recent years. Last year, no exception. Oregon only beating California 24-17. But California has a lot of questions on offense. And when you're facing a really good defense like Oregon, it's not good to have questions on offense. Oregon will go on the road and take down California. Yes, California typically has a good secondary. It could pose problems for Bo Nix. That's where the Oregon rushing game comes into play. And again, I don't think California exceeds more than 14 to 17 points in this game against the Ducks. Oregon then goes on the road to take on Colorado. Easy win there. We don't want to bypass the Buffaloes by any means, but arguably the worst team in the Pac-12. Oregon won 52-29 last year. Not much to talk about here. They then take on Washington. Big-time rivalry game, big-time rivalry series. The Oregon just continues to dominate. Oregon just continues to dominate the Huskies. They took down the Huskies 26-16 in Seattle last year. And now back at home, Washington going through some more growing pains. Again, a disappointing year in 2021. Now new coach in Kalen DeBoer, new quarterback in Michael Penix. Defense still going through a few changes in Eugene. I just don't see Washington having a chance here. Again, rivalry games make people do crazy things. And it could be close for a while. But Oregon will take down the Huskies again to continue their dominance in this series. The big game, guys, is the week after. The only reason that Oregon could slip up to Washington is because they're overlooking Washington in preparation for Utah. The big revenge game. The one game that is circled Oregon's calendar heading into 2022. Because last year, Utah ended Oregon's playoff hopes. At the end of the year in Salt Lake City, Oregon lost to Utah 38-7. We're embarrassed by the Utes. A couple weeks later, in the Pac-12 Championship, shot the Rose Bowl on the line. Utah annihilated Oregon again, 38-10. Now the game's in Eugene. Now Oregon has a very strong defense. It was pretty good last year. Should be even better this year. Now they don't have as many questions on offense. Quarterback play and offensive explosiveness should be a lot better. And I believe Oregon takes down Utah and gets major revenge over the Utes and could possibly end Utah's playoff hopes. Just like the Utes ended Oregon's just last year. The game at home, senior night for the Ducks, potential night game. Quarterback plays improved. Defense is great. It's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be physical. Emotions are going to be high, but Oregon's going to get the job done. They will take down the Utes. And then they will go on the road to take on Oregon State, another rivalry series that the Ducks have just dominated. They beat the Beavers 38-29 last year. Oregon State has a pretty good front seven, pretty solid defensive line. Oregon's offensive line should do enough to hold up against that, open up some holes for the run game, give Bo Nix time to stand in the pocket and deliver on the throws. The Beavers should be a bowl team again under Jonathan Smith, but still not quite there to start contending year in and year out with the Ducks. Oregon defeats the Beavers, and after that 2-2 start, the Ducks will win 8 straight to end the year, finish at 10-2, and very well could have a shot with that record to make the Pac-12 Championship game. It really depends on how the rest of the conference fares because, again, the divisions are gone. But 10-2, 1 conference loss should be good enough to get into that Pac-12 title game. Playoff hopes will not be there because of 2 losses, but a Rose Bowl berth certainly not out of the question, and that would be a fantastic year for Dan Lanning. First year as a head coach, first year in Eugene, we've got the Ducks going 10-2 and a potential shot at another Pac-12 title. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos. Check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Do not miss out on that offer, guys. One of the best offers in the entire country for some of the best college football and NFL spread picks in the entire country. Make sure to sign up today so you do not miss out on our picks and analysis as we go through this season. You will not regret it, and we want you to become a part of our team. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.